I'm looking at the clock on my phone, and it does seem to be 7 o'clock. So I think we should gavel to order. Are we good with, Stephanie, are we good with Thomas? Okay. So welcome everybody to the 14th meeting of the Yellow Springs School Board. This is the meeting where we do the business that needs to be done. This is our regularly scheduled monthly meeting. And let me start before we call the roll with a couple of announcements and reminders. First of all, this meeting is being conducted in a format pursuant to the guidelines that were issued to all elected bodies in the state by the Attorney General. During this quarantine crisis period, we are permitted now to meet remotely. We are all looking forward to the time when we can get back to doing this in person, but that time has not yet arrived. That also means that for those of you who may be watching at home, the community comments section of our agenda, which we do every month, is available to you on that YouTube channel in the comments function. Those comments will come into Stephanie. Stephanie will then read those comments into the record for us. And finally, I just want to say, as I often do, that the school board will never discuss business related to staff, faculty, personnel, or students in a public board meeting. It's just good to remember what we can and cannot say, what we do and do not say in a public forum like this. So with those out of the way, and welcome everybody, Tammy, let's go ahead and call the roll.
Okay. Khan.
Here.
Merhemic.
Here.
Ellison. McQueen.
Here.
Turner.
Here.
Very, very good. Okay. So we will then move on to the next item on the agenda, 1.3, and that's the approval of the minutes from our last meeting. Do I have a motion for that, please?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any edits, corrections, additions, subtractions that need to be made to that? Discussion about that? Hearing and seeing none, then could we call the roll on that, please, Tammy?
Khan.
Yes.
Merhemic.
Yes.
McQueen.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So I will acknowledge again persons present. I wish I could acknowledge you in person, as we always do in our board meeting, but here we are online. We'll move into section 2 of the agenda, and that's our board communications. We have one letter about the school forest program that came in this month for us. And now we'll move on to item 2.2, community comments. So now I'm directing my virtual gaze over at Stephanie to see if anything has come in on the chat function for community comments. You need to unmute.
Of course, I forgot that. I do not see any yet, but there is a delay. So let me just make sure nothing comes through, because they're about a minute behind us.
Okay.
So while we're waiting, I thought that we had two different meeting minutes to approve. One was the special meeting and one was the last board meeting. Am I not remembering correctly?
They're both in there.
Are they? Okay.
Yep. Stephanie, I'll just wait for you to give us the all clear before we move on in the agenda.
We've got people watching, but I'm not seeing any messages come through. And Thomas isn't either.
Okay. So with that, then we'll move on. We do not have a schools in action report this month, alas. Those are often the best part of these meetings. So we'll go to our 2.4 administrative reports. And I think, Jack, last time Matt went first, so I think you... Sorry?
Schools in action is, Cameron is being introduced.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about that. Forgive me. So Terry, do you want to introduce us, please?
Hello. Yeah,
Hey, so yeah.
I believe Sylvia's joined us. Good evening. Actually, Steve, I would like Mr. Hatter to introduce his new social studies teacher to the board.
Yeah, so I want to introduce our new middle school social studies teacher. Before I do that, I again want to thank Becca Eastman for her years of service with our district. She has been a real asset to our kids, and she's going to be sorely missed when she moves on. We wish her nothing but the best. In our hiring process, it was unique. It was our first ever hire done completely virtually. But we were really blown away by the pool of candidates that we got and the quality of those candidates. We went through 2 rounds, and in our final round, I think all 4 of our final candidates were very viable candidates, but Cameron really rose to the top of that. So he comes to us with a bit of a non-traditional background, and that his training was more in exercise science and clinical research rather than the traditional education pathway. But in spite of that lack of training, his experiences and just his knowledge and wisdom and his ability to connect and his interpersonal skills made him the clear top candidate for us. So he's already met the middle school team on some of their virtual meetings, and we're just very excited to have him as part of our middle school team.
Now that's excellent, and Cameron, welcome. And I wonder if there's anything you'd like to add to what Jack has just said by way of introducing yourself.
Well, I appreciate the kind words. I'll keep my comments brief. I would just, again, like to thank everybody for the opportunity to join the district. Everybody on the board, Dr. Holden, Jack Hatter, the whole middle school team has made me feel like a part of the team since the minute I spoke to everybody. And I'm really just excited to kind of get to work and to serve our students. That's the way I find.
Nice.
Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's going to be very exciting to have you settle into all of this. We are trying to corner the market on social studies teachers named Cameron, and so this is one step in that direction. I'm very pleased about that. And you're stuck in Huber Heights at the moment, but when this all settles down, we look forward to walking you around and showing you town and getting to know you finally face to face, which I think we're all looking forward to doing. So welcome to the district.
Thank you very much. I look forward to that as well. Hopefully that'll be sooner than later.
Yeah.
Okay, well, and again, with apologies that I missed that on my board agendas, I'm toggling back and forth here. Now we will move on to our administrative reports, and we are going to start, I think, with Jack this. I think Matt went first last time. Go ahead, Jack.
I want to apologize to Cameron. He just bolted, but I said social studies, he's science. So I apologize for misstating that. He's the new science teacher, not the new social studies teacher.
I wonder when you talk about this one, but either way, it's news.
Yes. All right. So in my board reports, the first thing I want to just touch on is the National Honor Society induction last night. First off, I just want to thank Dave Smith. So the National Honor Society is kind of Dave's baby, and it's something he's very passionate about. And he's been doing our inductions for 20 plus years. And if you had the opportunity to watch last night, it's a real treat. And especially just to see our students. So when we think about the 2020 plan as it was written maybe 8 years ago, and the vision of what we wanted out of our students and their ability to communicate and their poise and confidence, I think that was all on display when you saw how they were introducing their classmates and their peers. So I just want to thank the students and thank Dave and congratulate our 22 new inductees. So that was a very cool ceremony, and for anybody that's watching, that is, I believe, available on our website. So if you get a chance, jump over and watch that. And when you see the new inductees around town, just congratulate them and welcome them. The second piece is just thinking about our seniors. We've put a lot of effort into celebrating our seniors. So it's a tough time for them. And when you think about a 13-year school journey and you get to that last quarter of school, and this is where we start to see classes really start to come together, and they put issues from the past behind them, and they just really start to bond. And our kids are not getting that because they're not together. And then on top of that, you have all these traditions that you save up and you wait for. You know, they have the world's longest senior skip day. But some of the other traditions that they normally would look forward to have been canceled. They didn't get their senior prom. They didn't get their spring sports seasons. The graduation ceremony is going to look different, even senior pranks. So all the things that they really look forward to have been stripped away from them. So we put a lot of energy into still recognizing them. And some of the things you may have seen around town, so the street signs or the signs in the yards, we had about maybe 12 to 15 staff members who joined us on a Friday afternoon, and we drove to all 61 students' houses. We split our team into 2 different parades and kind of paraded around and honked. And I think the teachers had a lot of fun. I think we really enjoyed seeing those seniors come out of their houses and wave, and I think they appreciated it. And after the first senior, I think the word was out. So when we got to the second house, the senior was out there with their phone recording, waiting for us to come by. So I think that they really did appreciate that. And then the senior banners went up in town this week, and those are really, really neat. That was a collaborative effort initially brought to us by the village. And we collaborated with the village, the Community Foundation, the Yellow Springs Alumni Association, and other local donors to pay for those. And then just want to thank Stephanie. She did all the design work for the yard signs and those banners, and she was the go-between communicating with the print company and the Community Foundation. So she invested hours upon hours upon hours making those banners happen. So just want to recognize her as well. But if you get a chance, if you haven't been downtown and haven't seen those banners, yesterday evening I was driving through and I saw a parent out taking a picture of her child's banner, and then this morning when I was coming back into town driving through, there was a different parent out taking a picture of his son's banner. So I think the families really appreciate that. We also Stephanie's kind of flashed up a website, so we're releasing a web page that's just celebrating our seniors. And then the senior supplemental, I think, will be coming out in the YS News, I believe, next week. That's an annual thing. So we've incorporated that into the 11th and 12th grade thematic work, where the seniors submitted their senior supplemental information, their senior video pictures and video clips. So that's all coming. And then I feel like I'm forgetting some. Oh, we're going to start the social media recognition of our seniors. I think that's going to start next week. So we'll start pushing out. We had a few seniors who have opted out of that, but there will be about 50 or so seniors who will be recognized through our social media platforms as yet another way of celebrating the seniors. So, and then the last piece that I'm really excited about is graduation. So I've been meeting with seniors once a week, and my first meeting, they were just adamant that they wanted to have a graduation ceremony, and they were actually bashing virtual ceremonies, saying that that was not what they wanted to settle for. So I was really appreciative of Dr. Holden's support and the health department's support and us in the police department being able to have some sort of graduation ceremony. So right now, the plan is we're going to stage at the high school, and the seniors also were really adamant about wanting to have their clap out. So that was a tradition that we put in about 5 years ago, and it was copying Mills Lawn's tradition of what they did with the sixth graders. And it's something that our seniors really value tremendously. So we're going to stage the seniors, and all of this has shifted forward one day from our originally scheduled graduation. So originally we were going to graduate on Thursday night. this is all shifted forward one day, and it's going to be on Wednesday night, and that's because of the availability of the screen. But we're going to stage at the high school, and then we are going to invite the community to come out on their porches, to park along the parade route, and yell for our seniors and kind of have their clap out as they parade through town. So they're going to leave out of the front of the high school, go down West South College, go to the stoplight, then turn on Xenia Avenue, go through downtown, turn at the stoplight there at Corey Street, and then turn on Dayton Street and head back out towards Antioch Midwest. So we are anticipating pulling out of the high school around 8:25, and then we've allotted about 15 minutes for that parade to go through town. So we really hope our community, it'll be one last opportunity for our community to come out and celebrate the class of 2020. And then once they pull into Antioch Midwest, they'll settle in. We're using Funflix is the company that we're using to host the event. We'll have a 45-foot screen that has a 30 by 17 viewable area. And then they create a FM frequency, so all of the audio will play through the park. And everything will be pre-recorded. So that's going to be my big push next week, is to get that entire presentation together, get all the speeches pre-recorded and on there. And then what we're really looking for is we're looking for more of a personal touch to have the seniors feel a little more connected. They wanted to be in the same area, even if they couldn't be out of their cars. So we were able to give them that. And initially we were talking about just a drive-by where I would hand them the diploma, and the more I thought about it, I just worry about if I would happen to be carrying the virus and having to be that close to every family. That was concerning to me. And looking at what other schools are doing, we're looking for something that's a little bit more personal, where a family member can actually present the senior with their diploma cover. So we're working out those details. That is going to be kind of the bulk of my work tomorrow and Monday, are to get all those details in a clear format, and then that'll be going on. So.
That's awesome, Jack. And before we dive into this a little further, if people have questions for Jack, let me just remind everybody that I think this platform works better if everybody except the speaker is muted. I think that there's feedback that kicks around. At least I'm getting some of that from some of the unmuted mics. So I guess, Jack, I also wanted to just confirm that news about the graduation and the graduation route, the parade route in particular, will be in the YS News as well.
Yes. Our initial press release, we pulled the details out because we were releasing it to media more broadly than just Yellow Springs, but we are working with the YS News to get that detailed route in and anticipated times, so that families don't have to be out there for a long time, that they can just come out and more accurately when the parade route will be going, or the parade will be going past.
Great. That's wonderful. And I think, right, I think we have actually made the very best of a really rotten situation. I was down doing some errands this afternoon. The banners look terrific. So thank you for everybody who's been involved in that, especially our own Stephanie. But I think they're swell. Very handsome. Other questions or comments for Jack? All right. Well, thank you, Jack.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me? I'm having some real connection issues. I'm sorry, you all. If you can hear me, I just wanted to say I know a lot of families are just feeling so appreciative about the creative ways that you're recognizing the seniors. So thank you, everybody.
Hear, hear. Okay, so Matt, we'll turn this over to you for your report from Mills Lawn.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Hope you're doing well. So similar to Jack, we are really focused on end of the year procedures and events, and trying to just in this unique school year with some fun and with, you know, reflection of what we would normally do at the end of the year, but highly modified, of course. So you know, I think by my count, I was looking at the last board report. This is our 8th week of non-traditional instruction, I believe. So it's really interesting how long we've been doing this, and kudos to everyone, and we're keeping the energy up and trying to finish strong. So one of the things that we're also doing is our 6th grade recognition ceremony. We, as Jack says, we usually have a clap out, and that is the highlight. And what we've heard from our 6th graders is that is the most important thing. So we're trying to somehow, present something that resembles a clap out as well. And it's, it's the whole ceremony is going to be kind of a drive-through. Kids will stay in their cars. We're encouraging parents, if they want to decorate their car and put their student's name on there and just kind of make it a little more fun, that they can do that. Basically, it's all going to be on Mills Lawn campus. So we have a parking area out back, kind of similar to how we do street fair, where we park on the grass. And then there's going to be a course that folks will drive through that'll be decorated with students' names and balloons and things like that. And as they drive through, we're encouraging as many teachers as possible to come out and for them to serve as the clappers, to clap them out. We're not, really going promoting it to the public, for anyone and everyone to come out. It's going to be a little bit more personal to our students and families and teachers. So they're going to drive through the course, get their clap out. They'll stop towards the front of behind the building in the parking lot. We'll be handing out an envelope with certificates, and if they've earned a medal for student council or something like that, that'll be in there. There'll be a treat in there, and then they'll drive on. So it'll be we're starting at 6, and it's on that Tuesday, which I think is May 26th. Is that correct? So it'll probably be about an hour or so, but that's how we're honoring our 6th graders. And another nice thing is PTO is making signs. So I think that we'll have signs with all of their names in the front area by the marquee sign. And then either that night or probably at a later time, the 6th grader can come and pick up their sign and then put it in their yard, so they can kind of make that feeling last a little bit longer. So that's how we're doing that. We also have our end of the year checkout, kind of dropping off technology and picking up personal items. And, that plan, as well as the 6th grade graduation, has been approved by the Greene County Department of Health. And we're really, with the pickup and drop off, doing no students coming in the building. We're using our outdoor safety windows and doors that face out to the yard or parking lot, and just scheduling kids at 10-minute intervals so that they come in and they just they get to grab their personal items, drop off their technology, say goodbye to their teacher. So it's going to be very, we have to do a lot of staging to make sure that it's safe, and have all of our cones and markers out there so people know how to stay apart from each other appropriately. But it's going to work out, and I think it's probably the best plan that we could come up with. And teachers feel good about it. I feel good about it. I think it's going to keep everybody safe. So those are the 2 big organizational, logistical things that we're working on right now. Something else I'm really proud of is next week we're having kind of at the end of the year we do field day. We do painting a car. The art class will go and they'll paint an actual car that a community member provides, and we usually have our day of discovery, which is more of a social emotional learning day. And so some of these things that we are not able to do, we are incorporating into next week, which is being led by the specialists, and it's called Bulldog Bingo Week, because they've created a bingo card, and it has links on the card so that you can get diagonal, across, straight down, and do at least 5 activities and kind of complete your bingo card. And all the activities are really fun. It's art, music, PE, there's some kind of scavenger hunts, PBL. So all the specialists have chipped into this and came up with this idea. And I think that it's going to be fun, and the kids will be excited about it, and that it'll provide, a little bit of that end of the year, magic that we usually have when we're in person. So lots of good stuff's happening, and another big thing is we're all reflecting. The teachers are actively reflecting on how their experience has gone, trying to engage students around that so that we can really have a solid understanding of how to move forward for next year, because that's something that we need to learn from this and really make sure that what we did that was effective, we continue doing, and maybe, if there's anything we need to alter, we look at that as well. So that's what's happening.
Thank you, Matt. I think, well, for me at any rate, the audio got swallowed when you announced the date and time of the 6th grade clap out. So could you just do that again?
Yes. So it's Tuesday, May 26th at 6 p.m. And as I said before, it's really more of a parent and teacher student event than a full-fledged community event. So we're gonna try to advertise it in that way.
Great. Thank you very much for that. Other comments or questions for Matt? Okay. So I think that's the end of our administrative reports, 2.4. So we'll move on to portion 3 of our agenda, which is the financial report. So Tammy, take us away.
Okay, and so the fun begins. I'm waiting until Stephanie scrolls down. So as you look at this page, this is project our cash flow. And this is as of April 30th, 2020 for the general fund. And as you can tell here, our ending cash balance is very close to our beginning cash balance. Now, if May and June would hold true to the projections, then we would have a very slight spending into our carryover from the previous year. But now, as we know, since April 30th, we've had some state foundation cuts come through, so that we know that this is going to be a little bit less in the ending cash balance than we anticipated. So if you could scroll down to the next page, and this is for the month of April, and this is going to look a little bit different. I want to say a little bit funny because of the fact that I used April to make the adjustments as I was going through and adjusting the forecast. So as we get to the next page, then you'll see what it looks like for the 10 months for the general fund. And the property tax and the tangible personal property tax last month was running ahead, so I upped those projections. And then as soon as I adjusted the income tax projection, we received a little bit more than what I had adjusted the projection to. So that's a little bit higher, about $21,000 more. And then for the unrestricted state grants, that's the state foundation. And in the past week or so, we have been notified that we're going to receive a reduction for this fiscal year, 2020, of $140,000. $140,115, and that's going to happen over 3 payments. That's going to be the last payment in May, and then the 2 payments in June. And then our property tax allocation is very close to budgeted, and then also our other local, as you can see, that's running close. And then on the expenditure side, we are underspending on our budget for our expenses, which is a good thing. So then when you get down to, this is what I'm looking at is all is for the 10 months compared to the entire fiscal year. And then we also have our graphs. Where does the money come from? And you can see the categories, and most of it comes from real estate. And then we also have, where's the money go? We're a service organization. We teach students. So most of our expenditures are salaries and benefits. And then we also have the same information in a little bit different format. And you can see where our revenues are running very close to projections. And then on the next page, our benchmark is 83.47% for expenditures, and we're spending 79.85%. I should say we've spent 79.85%. And then we have the reconciliation. So in the bank for all funds, we have a little over 7 million. And then we have all the funds of the district. And I just want to say that with the transfers out and the advances out, I was hoping that we wouldn't have to transfer any money out to the cafeteria fund this year, but we probably will. I'm just not sure how much yet. But one of the things that we are doing is we are still providing meals for the free and reduced, and then as such, we can submit for reimbursement for that.
So once again, Tammy, thank you. I guess for those who are watching at home in particular, I guess it's hard for me to imagine just how turbulent trying to do budget planning must be at a moment like this. When as Terry has said, as Tammy has said, we've all said in the past, the situation with schools through the state is changing on a week-to-week, even day-to-day basis, and trying to sort of keep the ship moving in the right direction and keep it financially sound, which is a difficult task under good circumstances, is just, it's remarkable what you've been able to do for us, Tammy, and sort of keeping us on an even keel. I really appreciate that. Because this, I guess I'm going to predict that this situation is liable to change as the coming months unfold. There's just a lot of uncertainty around all kinds of budget questions throughout the state. Are there other questions that people have for Tammy on the financial report for April? Okay, well, hearing none, thank you again, Tammy. We'll move on to item 4 in the agenda, the adoption of the financial portion of the consent calendar. This is items 4.1 through 4.3. First, I need a motion for those.
I'll move.
So moved. For second.
Sounds like we had TJ moved and Aida second on that. Okay. Discussion then, please.
Okay, I will go through the first couple ones rather quickly. On the 4.1, the increase for the general fund is $70,000, and that's for curriculum, and that's for the reading portion of that. And then we also had a little bit for the public school support fund, which is the principal's funds. And then on 4.2, because the section 125 allowable expenses were changed due to the COVID pandemic, then we also needed to change our section 125 flexible benefit plan. And I needed to sign that and get that in by April 15th, which I did. So I'm asking for retroactive approval on that. And then my last one I have is for the 5-year forecast. Stephanie, if you could click the other one, the other attachment, that would be great. This is just a presentation that summarizes the 5-year forecast. So, and as Steve said earlier, yes, things change daily sometimes. And this forecast was prepared on April 28th. And that was before we had state funding cuts. So those cuts are not included in this forecast. And I just want to make that very clear. If you can go to the next slide, Stephanie. So how are we funded? We're funded 50% property taxes, 17% income taxes, 15% with the state funding, and then 18% with other local, and that's mostly open enrollment. So the bulk of our funding comes from property taxes. And with the real estate taxes, you can see we've had some nice increases for us in the past 3 years. And then this category is also projected to increase in fiscal year 21 and 22 because we're currently going through a reevaluation in fiscal year 20. And I'm anticipating that's going to go as planned. So at this point in time, we don't know of any reductions in future years. Some county auditors are moving back the property tax deadline in the summer. Greene County is not. So tax bills will still be due in the middle of July as before. But what may happen is people may not be able to pay their property taxes. They may pay them late. So we may start to accumulate delinquencies. So keep that in mind. And then for the income tax, you've heard me talk about the income tax for the past 10 months and belabor the point about how it was going down. So as you can see in fiscal year 18 and fiscal year 19, we had some increases. And then in this fiscal year, it decreased again. I shouldn't say again, but it did decrease. So what I did is I projected this amount will decrease by $21,000 in fiscal year 21 and remain flat in future years. And once again, we don't know of any reductions in future years. The income tax filing deadline has been pushed back to July 2020, so we may experience some timing differences. I have heard that some treasurers are decreasing their projections by 5%, but once again, I just held mine steady. And then what we're doing with the revenue is we're doing modeling to see, you know, if this would go down 15, if this would go down 5%, if another category would go down 10%, you know, what would happen and what that would look like, and if we needed to make any adjustments any place. So for the state funding, in the past couple of years, we've gotten slight increases. So once again, I want to reiterate that in fiscal year 20 will be reduced by $140,150. And while we don't want to lose $140,000, just to keep it in perspective, this reduction is 1.46% of our annual revenues. And once again, we don't know any for certainty any reductions in future years. So I projected that to remain flat. We've heard that there may be another cut. And once again, we don't know, and the people that are making these decisions at the state level don't know. So the type of levies, we have operating levies, we have emergency levies. Some districts have substitute emergency levies. We have income tax levies. We also have a permanent improvement levy, and then some districts have combination levies. So those are the types of levies that school districts have. The levies that we do have, we have a permanent improvement levy, and that expires in 2022. So probably in 2021, we'll have to look at what we're going to do with that, if we're going to renew that, or if we're going to, if you'd want to increase it, or what you want to do with that. And then we also have in 2024, we have 2 emergency levies that will come up for renewal. So in 2023, we'll have to start thinking about, and before this, we'll have to start thinking about, do we want to renew them as is? Do we want to combine them? Or do we want to turn them into substitute emergency levies? And then the next slide has our levies in a grid format. And then our other local revenue includes tuition, open enrollment, investment earnings, and keep in mind we receive $6,020 for each open enrollment student. And then this is a graph that just shows our revenue, and you can see our property tax revenues, which is for 50% of our revenues. And then we have our income tax revenues and our state funding, and then our other local. And once again, one of your favorite graphs, where does the money come from? Comes from the bulk of the real estate and the state tax allocation, which is the homestead and rollback reimbursement. And then for the expenditure assumptions in this forecast, so step increases are built into this forecast for each year. And in fiscal year 2020, a 2% base salary increase was given to all staff, and that's in this forecast. And then in future years, I included a 1% salary increase on the base salary as a placeholder, but none of those salary increases have been negotiated yet. And future years also assume that staffing remains stable. You may see different positions in different buildings doing different things, but overall, we have not projected any staffing cuts in this forecast. And then benefits, medical insurance premiums, we have increases in that. And then all the other categories have inflationary increases. And then where does the money go? Salaries and benefits, because that's what we do. We teach students. And then how do the revenues compare to expenditures? In fiscal year 2019 was where we began deficit spending. And this forecast also shows that through 2024 will be deficit spending, but our goal is to close that gap. And then the next graph shows the same information in a different way. And then what's the effect on the cash balance? So the black line shows 30 days of operating cash. And then the blue bar shows our actual cash balance. So you can see out until 2023 that we have 30 days of operating cash. 2024 is where it begins to get a little bit dicey. And that's not really any different than the previous forecast in October. So at the end of fiscal year 2024, without any revenue cuts, we end the year with a positive balance of $378,000. So with small revenue cuts, fiscal year 2024 would turn into a negative cash balance. But until then, we should be able to weather this pandemic. We just need to be very cautious and very deliberate with our spending. So, you know, we're in a better position than a lot of school districts. But once again, we just need to be very cautious with what we do.
This is great, and I refrained from making a joke on that one graph about the need to flatten our own curve there as the revenues kept rising and the expenditures kept rising and the revenues stayed flat. This is terrific. This is really helpful. And again, for those watching at home, this is a terrific primer on school funding. So thank you for preparing this as part of the 5-year forecast. Are there questions for Tammy about that, or indeed any of the 3 items that we're voting on right now?
Yeah, I have a question. You mentioned delinquency and that we may see some. What's the most common way to sort of deal with delinquency, or is there a way to do that? Do emergency levies take care of that? Like, how does that? What happens when delinquency happens and we can't get the funds?
Yeah, what happens with delinquencies is that will stay on that tax bill for that property until it's paid. So, you know, in some properties, you see delinquencies, you know, stretching, 5-6 years. Some properties, you see it only stretching maybe just one collection period. But that's upon the county auditor to collect that. So no, we would not increase our revenue. We just want to take account and keep track of those delinquencies as they're occurring, and then build that into our forecast, because eventually you should receive that money.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Other questions for Tammy? Okay, I'm scanning the screen here. I don't see anybody. So let's go ahead and call the vote on items 4.1 through 4.3.
Mayor Hemick.
Yes, sorry.
Allison.
I think she dropped off again. She's having connectivity problems.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what's that me? I didn't hear. Yes, if it was.
Okay. Turner,
Yes.
Khan,
Yes. Okay. Thank you for that. We'll move now to the superintendent's report and recommendations, 5.1. Terry, what do you have for us?
Thank you. First, quickly, I just want to echo congratulations to the National Honor Society. It was pretty amazing to watch that last night. Our students are impressive. So congrats to all the inductees, and then congratulations to the class of 2020, because this is the last board meeting until that ceremony. So I want to take an opportunity to publicly congratulate our graduates. My update really might sound like a broken record, so for that I apologize. It's just become my world. We are nearing the end of our school year, and so I am going to meet with staff. Principals are having small group meetings, and then we're going to meet and talk about kind of as both Jack and Matt mentioned, I think Matt in particular, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and then how do we craft our plan for the future. Part of that may involve a change in the calendar, which we've talked about a little bit so far, but we're really going to have a comprehensive approach to next year. But if you ask me what that is right now, it's just a big question mark. As mentioned before, it's 3 plans. Going back to it used to be, and so we can all wax because I don't think that's ever coming back. But that is one option. Option 2 is type of approach, and then option 3 is all virtual, similar to what we're doing now. The Ohio Department of Education sent out a letter the other day saying that they are working on what they call a restart guide. And they said it will be released soon. I happen to have a copy of that because I think a district made a public records request. I have this copy that has more draft signs on it than anything else, but it caused me some concern reading it today, and I'm going to discuss this tomorrow with my fellow superintendents, but it's 11 pages right now, and there are a lot of pages where it says ODE will and it's blank, and LEA will and it's blank, because nobody knows yet. So most of it makes sense, but the concerning thing to me, and this is probably not good coming on the heels of Tammy's conversation, but it is money, So there's a suggestion. Maybe we need to have students go to school all year, or have teachers work all year, or do these things, which is great. And maybe we need to do that, but all of that has a dollar sign. Even the safety precautions, which we take very, very seriously, are going to cost us in the tens of thousands of dollars. We just ordered our first round of face masks for students and staff. We have enough for you. They have the Yellow Spring Schools logo. Washable, appropriate sizes for our children, for our young children. But that's just one of many other recommendations. So one thing is that you need to have either hand sanitizer or some type of hand wash station at every door, and product in every classroom. We're just in a normal year. I mean, that's an expense, but now it's an expense if you can find it, right? So we're just trying to work through these things. We're going to have to do this sooner rather than later, because while each day feels like a year, we're gonna get there soon. And I think that's mainly my update. again, sounds like a broken record, but it's become my life.
Yeah, I absolutely. We understand, I think, and I want everybody else to understand, as I've already said, just the speed with which things are shifting and changing, and not necessarily in linear ways. We sometimes go left, and then we sometimes go right, and then we sometimes go a little backwards, and then we sometimes go a little forwards. And there's nobody's fault. It's just a series of very complicated variables, and nobody really knows what the right answer is. So I appreciate it, Terry. I appreciate your candor about all of this. And I think we understand the real challenge, and complicated challenge that we're all facing. Are there other questions anybody would like to toss at Terry about the superintendent update? Okay, seeing none. Oh, so go ahead, Sylvia.
Sorry, no, I was just going to say, not a question, but I think we all really appreciate, all the thoughtfulness that's going into this, and all the communication and coordination that you're part of in larger Greene County education. I think that's really great.
Thank you.
So we'll move to the administrative portion of our consent calendar. This is item 6 in the agenda. It's items 6.1 through 6.7, if I'm counting correctly. So could I have a motion for that, please?
I'll move. Second.
Thank you. So things we need to pull out, things we need to discuss further?
I just, the second reading is for the open enrollment policy to bring it into alignment with current law. 6.2 and 6.3 really, in many ways, go hand in hand. As Tammy mentioned, we're just trying to shift some things around so that we can be very thoughtful about getting the work done that we need to get done, and being cognizant of cost. So there's a slight revision in the student services director job description. And then in addition to the director of athletics and student leadership with some business operations work, that will free up Donna First to really work with me on some curriculum supports and special ed supports, particularly given the fact that we don't know anything about what's coming. And it just really is a different world. And so she and I were on a call today about a product that might help us more accurately and consistently virtually track the progress of particularly our students with special needs. So that's why those shifts. 6.5 is just the addition of of an open enrollment job responsibility. And I will say with the EMIS coordinator, that work, because all of our funding, is connected to EMIS. And so as this landscape changes in terms of attendance and how you monitor that, et cetera, the EMIS work changes. So there's a slight job description change, and then we're going to watch to see what kind of time goes into that, and it's a addition of the public records request will be absorbed by that as well. And then 6.6, the School Forest Summer Program. You got Mr. Day's letter as part of the board communications. That's typical each year at this time. He was very clear, though, about the need for the work to continue, and I think we all agree with that. But also, because of the nature of the work, there's kind of naturally built-in safety precautions and for social distancing, et cetera. And that is 6.6. I think that's it. No, that's not it.
No, there's one more, I think. 6.7.
There's recognitions, gifts, and introductions. And I do not have that in front of me. Oh, wait, is it there?
It's the keychains for the class of 2020.
Keychains, the donation, I apologize. Donation of keychains and t-shirts for the class of 2020 by, I can't read that. I apologize. And I don't see it on mine. Wait a minute. Oh, here it is. Sorry, my apologies. Thanks for the generous donation for our class of 2020 who's lost so much, from Nicole Swanee and Singapore Seahorse Coin Jewelry, and logo t-shirts from Anderson Williamson Insurance Agency. So we greatly appreciate that, and thank you for thinking of Yellow Springs students.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, Terry. Questions about any of these items? Okay, then let's call the roll.
Ellison,
Yes.
McQueen,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Mayor Hemick,
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. We'll go on now to the personnel portion of the consent calendar, and this is number 7 in the agenda. This is 7.1. I think that's the only item under that tab. So can I have a motion for 7.1, the personnel schedule?
So moved.
Second.
Terry?
Yeah, board, I ask for your approval of Schedule A resignations, Schedule B certificated employment, and Schedule F administrative employment as presented.
Very good. Questions about these items? Call the roll then, please.
McQueen,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Mayor Hemick,
Yes.
Ellison,
Yes.
Okay. So now we'll move on to the board communications part of the agenda. And I guess, Mr. McQueen, I'm looking at you for a report from the Career Center.
There's nothing much new. Of course, the move is slowed down due to all of the social distancing that needs to happen. So that, but it hasn't slowed it down in a way where we're not worried about at least being unpacked and ready for August. But of course, you're right. We just don't know exactly what the future holds. The only official thing that really happened was the address we approved last night for the address to become official in the eyes of the state of Ohio. So that's on its way. Once again, that's 532 Innovation Drive in Xenia, Ohio, 45385. So yeah, other than that, everything, construction's going fine, and everything else is working pretty smooth. Yeah, we're still working on graduation stuff as well.
Actually, Steve, I was going to ask if you had all come to any graduation plan yet, because that's a big ceremony. And I just wonder if you don't have anything finalized yet, I guess.
No, it's a little too big to figure out how to do something like that safely. The closest, or the only thing we can really think about is virtually, which is difficult for several reasons as well.
Thanks for that. Are there other board member items, announcements? I'd like to interject one, and I'm actually going to call on Donna for this. Donna, you're participating along with somebody from the nutrition group in a Tecumseh Land Trust event, I think early in June.
I think it is. It's the first Wednesday in June, whatever that date is, in the evening. They were going to have. There was a collaborative effort between the Senior Center, Agraria Community Solutions, Tecumseh Land Trust, and Yellow Springs Schools. And part of that group, they were going to hold a conference, which was Terry was going to speak at, Michelle from the nutrition group and myself were going to be on the panel during one of those days of the conference. Of course, the conference was canceled. And as a follow-up to that, they are still going to hold the panel and a couple speaker events in June. So we're looking forward to that. It's just mostly focused on local sustainable food options for local farmers, and some of those projects going on in the Yellow Springs area.
Well, thank you very much for representing the schools, even in this truncated format. I think it would have been a swell conference. I think it'll be a terrific panel, even if only online. But I think it's a great project. And again, thank you for doing this for us. I think that's really wonderful.
I enjoy that group. It really helps me to kind of get a little more connected into other things going on in Yellow Springs.
Great. Yeah, no, it's a wonderful way for the schools, again, to collaborate with a number of the other organizations and constituencies in town. Are there other board members who want to toss anything out? Reminders? Jokes?
I guess I'll say something. Yeah, I'm going to bring up the National Honor Society just because I was so moved and touched by so much of what was happening. And again, I just want to offer my appreciation to our students who are really enduring a lot. The families, the parents, our staff, you all have been just really, really incredible, trying hard to lead in a really unprecedented time. I can't even imagine how this is all working and playing out, but I just want to really let everybody know that I'm in great appreciation for what is being done, and a lot is being done very successfully, actually. So thank you.
Hi, I'll add that one of the sort of long list of things that needed to change this year because of the pandemic was the whole scholarship assembly, application process, review process, and then award ceremony. Kind of a multi-stage thing that Dave Smith coordinates to make sure all the seniors know about all of the local scholarship opportunities that are available. And the plan was already underway last year to move it all online. So it's good that they were thinking about it a year ago, because we really needed it to be that way this year. And with a lot of coordination and support from the Community Foundation, who took it on and housed the whole electronic process, even for the scholarships where they don't hold the funds. And it went smoothly. Students did engage in the process, and the applications got out to the different reviewing scholarship groups, and there will be announcements about recipients, even though there won't be a ceremony. But I'm just really grateful that everyone put in the work to make that happen, so that that was still an important part of senior year for the 2020 class. And thanks to Dave Smith and everyone in the office and everyone at the Community Foundation who coordinated to make that happen for the graduates.
Yeah, thanks for that reminder, Sylvia. Yeah, of course, that's just another one of the things that happens annually that had to be shifted pretty dramatically. Anybody else? Okay, so the last item on the agenda is that the board will now move into an executive session. I'll need a motion to do that, but let me just remind again everybody who may be watching this, the board will not be reconvening after that executive session. There will be no vote taken. So the executive session will be the last thing that the board does this evening. Do I have a motion, please, to move us into executive session?
So moved.
I'll second.
Call the roll, Tammy?
Turner,
Yes.
Khan,
Yes.
Merhemic,
Yes.
Ellison,
Yes.
McQueen.
Yes.
Okay, and so we'll take just a moment here to reshuffle the technologies. Is that correct, Stephanie? So that we'll make sure that we're, yeah. So if you needed to run to the facilities, this is your moment to do it. And then we'll come back for the executive sessions. And Stephanie, will you give us some kind of a signal that we are all good to go?
Yes.
Thank you.